Welcome to another perfect diesel heater install, except this time it is for the new Transporter / Ford Transit. So I'm back here at Campervans on Le Frith, and once again we are fitting the Autoterm 2D. This is not going to be a hand holding every single nut and bolt exercise. We've already done that video. If by the time you have watched this video and you are still eager to fit one of these yourself, be sure to check out this video here. That is far more in-depth than what I'm going to bring you today. Today we're going to keep it quick and snappy. There's going to be loads of do's and don'ts. That previous video was so in-depth that Autoterm decided to use it themselves as installation instructions on their website. I know there are plenty of diesel heater videos out there. We've made one, like I've just said, and it was amazing. 256,000 views to date. Our best video. Adam reckons it's got something to do with his presence. I'm not so sure.
Hello.
Questions online: has anyone fitted a diesel heater to new Transporter, new Ford Transit? People don't know where to put them. People don't know what the fuel pickup is. We are here now today to find out that information and hopefully bring it to you to support people buying these new vans. Let's take it away.
Getting to know your way around the heater so that you haven't got to scroll through the instructions trying to find the info. On the underside is the fuel line. That is the fuel pickup. You've got the 4 bolts that help you mount it. One is an air intake and one is an exhaust. The quickest way to remember is the one that gets really, really hot is the furthest away from the thing that passes through with highly flammable liquid. So the exhaust is here, furthest away from the fuel pickup. And it's as simple as that. Orientation. We can install the diesel heater this way, and as you're staring through there while we're at it, you are staring at the heat output. See the thing that's covered in metal? That is the hot out. The one that looks like a plastic fan, that is the air in. Heat out, air in. Back to orientation. We can have it facing down. That's absolutely fine. And you can have it facing so you can see the label and it is eligible. We cannot turn it so the electrical connection and all of the fandango is facing up, and we cannot also have it that way round. That way round is not the same as that way round. Make sure that you can read the label and it reads left to right and it is not upside down. And it's as simple as that. Don't come at me with, well, I fitted mine upside down and it works fine. I don't care. We are following the manufacturer's instructions, which will leave you with a 2-year, go to an installer, 3-year warranty. Let's put it in the van. There's a plastic dowel kind of screw point there that we used as a bit of a datum. We worked it out on the inside. We are in this location here, above the heat shield, above the exhaust, and we are looking to hopefully track the exhaust above the heat shield and along this area here to facing out. This is our finished location. It needs to go down. Once we've drilled the hole for the turret, that turret will go down, and I'll show you more about that shortly. It's at a slight angle to the seat base like that, and that's for good reason, because on the back of the seat base is shaped a little bit like that, and what we don't want is our airflow to be restricted and basically be hitting straight on the back of here. 1, because the heat won't go into our van, and 2, the heater won't like that. The heater will not enjoy having that restriction, and it will cause it to soot up and potentially damage itself, and it will not be warranted if that hot air hasn't got anywhere to go. So we're at a bit of an angle there. The air intake is free from any kind of obstructions, and that looks, if I can remove this, a little bit like that. So the turret is at an angle like that. Look at the shape that we're dealing with here. This was the issue. Part of the turret is going to hit that way before it hits the base of the van. So we're actually going to put it on stilts. Adam's just cut the first of what I'm calling our stilts. Let me explain now that we're out of the van. One side of the van itself, on the inside,
has a ridge that's high. The turret is going to slam down and be bolted through at that high spot, which leaves the other spots quite low. All we did was leveled this up on the inside with that corner touching, put some packers in to represent our stilts. We packed it up until we were happy that it was flat both ways, and then basically transferred that distance to some tubular aluminium. We're going to use them as stilts, bolt down through, so that one side will be touching the van body itself, and then the others will be on stilts. I feel like I've said stilts quite a lot. Stilts. Hole for the turret is successfully drilled. Up there, primering, deburring and primering any kind of hole and drill holes. Anytime you do that in your van, make sure you cover that exposed edge of metal by cutting or drilling. So that's done. Now we are going to pop that turret through, bolt that down, 4 bolts on each corner, and then start building the diesel heater up. Finally, we have got the turret in. As you can see, as previously mentioned, that's touching on the cargo floor itself. We're on stilts. If there's any part of you that is concerned that some of the turret is now on the inside of the van, it would not matter if you had 6 inches of that on the inside of the van. It's still doing the same job, as long as it's long enough to poke through the bottom of the van and you seal that area. It's exactly the same. So they sell longer turrets for that reason. So as long as you seal the outside from turret to van body itself, you're absolutely fine. What we are going to do now is I'm going to poke down through the fuel pump cable through that grommet like so, because we're just about to put the heater down. That's my handy little helper. Just about to put the heater down, and what we don't want to do is put the heater down, bolt that down, and then be struggling, because obviously space is at a bit of a premium here. Go ahead and pull that, dude. I'm so excited to show you. I'm trying to hold the camera at the same time. I'm so excited to show you how snug that fits, and look, like it was meant for it. There's actually a notch there in the seat base to allow for that. It's not to allow for that, but it does allow for that. Absolutely stunning. And we've got all these little holes here, which if you've ever done one, you will know will make use of for cable tying stuff quite nicely. The fit, while being a bit strange because it's at an angle, is looking really, really good. We have the exhaust in place, the air inlet in place, the turret is in, that is Sika flexed, it's all been primered and sealed, so that's lovely. So even if this was to split, that's the point, none of those bad emissions can go up into the van. And we've also installed the fuel line. Haven't finished that yet, I will show you. We're going to learn as we go where best to do the fuel pump once we've got the fuel tank down. The exhaust goes over the heat shield. It has the heat protection on it. Not only will that obviously stop anything touching it get hot, but because of the material it's made of, it's going to stop any kind of vibrations between the two metal surfaces. We have mounted the muffler using this existing hole that was in the, almost like the underside chassis of the B pillar, so didn't even need to drill that. And then there's this little random bracket that I've then put the bracket on for the termination of the exhaust. The inlet, the air inlet, the other side of the combustion, goes the other way, still facing to the rear of the vehicle. We've got some cable ties I need to lop off. Do you need to drill a hole in the muffler? If the point of your exhaust progressively runs downhill all the way to termination, you will be fine. If you're in a situation where you create like a U shape, for whatever reason, if your pipe goes down, becomes the muffler, and then back up, you are creating basically a water trap, just like plumbing. That would be a trap and potentially could create some condensation and it could rust, etc., etc. Then go ahead and drill yourself a 5mm hole. If you're progressively downhill, like that is there,
I will be fine.
A massive do, and that is, do time this appropriately so that you have as little fuel in the tank as you can possibly get away with. I turned up today with my fuel light literally coming on, which is ideal for a couple of reasons. One, the weight of the tank is reduced massively because 20 kilos doesn't sound like a lot, but when the tank tips and all that fuel sloshes to one end, that can actually be, you know, quite off-putting when you're trying to hold it. But the best of all, and this is what we learned today, because I had minimal fuel, we disconnected the fuel filler from the tank. Instead of dismantling the side door pocket up there where you would fill up with fuel, we've disconnected the tube itself. So we've stripped down the tank, and now we're just going to see if there is an appropriate place for a fuel sender. What we got?
So this is the first one we got out, and we have found a lovely auxiliary port here. So looking at this, we just cut the top off with a Stanley knife, and then a Webasto elbow, which we can put a link in the description, will just fit over there. We will make sure that the pipe does go down into the tank, and we don't need to add an extra bit of fuel pipe inside, and that will do lovely for our auxiliary pickup.
So do you think, if we lop that off, do you think there's almost like a dip tube on that potentially?
So on a lot of the vehicles, this pipe actually has a tube that goes into the tank to pick up fuel, set to the right distance so you don't drain the tank of fuel. Sometimes you need to add another pipe inside this. So we will cut this off, fit this, I'll draw some fuel up with a vacuum pump to make sure we're getting some fuel. If not, we'll add a little pipe and we'll show you that as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's not liking that, is it?
Where you up to, mate?
Right, so we've established that there's no dip tube or no tube that follows this outlet into the tank. So what we've done is, using the Webasto elbow and some Webasto fuel pipe, because it fits through the narrow gauge or opener there. So we've pushed that through, all the way through, and I can feel it touching the bottom of the tank.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay, so that's it touching the tank. I'm going to pull it out a little bit, maybe 10 mil. Okay, tighten these up, and then that is going to be our pipe.
How, obviously it doesn't come with this blue pipe, so how are we getting from that blue pipe to the clear pipe that goes to the pump?
So I have got...
So this clip here is going to stop that feeder pipe from falling into the tank and disappearing forever, and that kind of sets our depth. But then what's...
So the blue pipe is narrower than the pipe that you get with the Autoterm heater, but it's useful for this purpose. So what I've got here is a narrower rubber hose with a smaller inner diameter. You can get unequal ones, so you can get one hole on one side and then it gets bigger on the other side. So I know for a fact that if we put this in some hot water, it will allow us to put the Autoterm pipe in.
So this is now a coupling, basically, in layman's term, from the dip tube to our Autoterm. Yes, excellent. People may ask why we haven't opted for these little T-pieces where you disconnect the fuel line, which would obviously eradicate doing what we're doing and having to drop the tank. What's the crack with that?
So Autoterm recommend that you do not do it that way. They do not supply kit, they don't endorse it, and they don't want you to do it that way. They recommend you put a dip tube into the tank like this. The issue with using these is one of them's pressurised, one of them is a return, and you can cause problems with a pressurised pipe. And so we are following Autoterm instructions because I'm an Autoterm authorised installer.
They can give you 3 years warranty. Check that out. Look at him. He's getting there, isn't he?
I know these kits exist, and I know they make life a hell of a lot easier. I know there's one for the crafter, but they are not endorsed, like Adam said, by Autoterm. Should you use one? Don't know. I've got the long range tank as well. That's why I won't be giving you guys measurements of the dip tube and stuff like that, because I don't want you to say, oh, UAO said if I did it at 160 mil, it would be fine. I don't know if my tank is deeper, longer, wider. I don't know what the score is. But
having that little nipple on there, yes I said nipple, has made life so much easier. We're going to bang this back up now and I think we'll be almost testing it.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is just check there is fuel coming out of here with my vacuum pump, just to make sure before we put the tank back in, because it makes sense. And we have done it this way because we're using the bits that we've got in stock and the bits that are available. Bear in mind, if you're watching this video a year after it's released, or even 6 months, there may well be a full kit that you can buy from Butler Technic or someone else that has all of these components in. This is a lot of what I've got in stock. So, as I said, there's nothing on the market that we could find at the moment. So this is why we've done it this way.
Made it sound like we're winging it. God, Adam, you were doing so well as well. No, you can't change it. It's said now. We haven't got the power to edit stuff out.
So if you've got one of these, you may as well use it to bleed it to the pump. Otherwise, you will get fault 13 numerous times.
That is also okay. It will eventually catch up with you and just fire up and start running.
Almost time to test it. What we're going to do is make use of the power cable that comes with it. It's fused. It should have, I believe, yep, 2 ring terminals on the positive and the ground. Just going to rig that up to a battery. I haven't got a leisure system yet. My Clayton is not fitted. Spoiler alert, fitting a Clayton. Of course I am, they're the best. So we're just going to hook this up to a battery. All these kind of make things pretty, chase wires in the walls, I will be doing at a later date, because to be honest, I don't even know where I'm putting my Clayton currently. So we're just going to put this on a wandering lead, and that is the same with the programmer and the button. I'm going to show you that button briefly. Yeah, so you got away with that one a little bit there, Adam. Not having to track these bad boys. So yeah, let's get it tested.
One of the benefits of fitting the Autoterm heaters is all the looms and all the wiring comes all built up, ready to go. As you can see, this is terminated on both ends, as is the power cable and the fuses. You don't need to crimp terminals, decide what fuses to connect to where. It all comes as simple as that. If you can connect that to a battery and plug that in, then you win in. And this should be connected directly to the leisure system battery.
And you cannot get it wrong, because the power cable does not fit into where the programmer controller goes, and the programmer controller will not fit into where the fuel pump goes. So it's simply plug and play with the already built up connected connections. Very, very simple. DIY. You can do it. So this here is a button controller, believe it or not. And if you wanted to, you could totally omit having the programmer. So this will in fact light up in many different ways. So if you don't have an external thermostat, you can use this simply in stages like ultra low, low, medium, high, ultra high. Every time you press a button, it will change colour. So for example, I'm not sure exactly what they are, but say it was the colours of the spectrum: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. That was quite good, wasn't it? As you progress through the colours, it will go a little bit hotter. If you use the external temperature sensor, each one of those colours will be another increment of heat. I want to use this in combination with the controller, and I'm not going to go in depth with that today because I don't know exactly how that is going to work with it, because I want to be in a situation where I hide the controller behind a cupboard door, but I also have access to this imminently from my bed position, so I can say bit hot, too cold. I want them to work together, and I might even link it with an external temperature sensor. And when I say external temperature sensor, I don't mean outside of the van, it's external from the thermostat. So you put that in the most ambient area of the van. So for example, in the headliner, where it's not going to be directly affected by the diesel heater itself, I want to make sure that I'm fully in control as much as possible. So this, once I get my head around it, will definitely pop up in a future video. Are we time to press play?
Pretty much.
Let's go.
Pop, pop, pop. less of a click than a putt-putt. Got to tell you, you cannot hear that silent pump on the inside. Got a bit red, flushed cheeks. We're obviously kicking out heat. I jumped up in there, cut all of the rubber back so that it's all looks nice. Looks like it grew there. Cable tied a few cables, probably put some B-roll over the top so you don't have to keep looking at my pink cheeks. We lifted it back up, making sure that we haven't got any leaks, because we have obviously patched into some fuel lines. Got the exhaust over here, just chugging away, constant. You will initially have some funky smells, like something's burning. Obviously it's a brand new motor, it could be burning off dust. Brand new household boilers do exactly the same. New radiators do the same when you first fire them up. You do get like a plasticky smell, just ignore that. Anything for you to add, Adam?
It's looking good.
Looking good, isn't it?
Sounding good.
Looking good, sounding good. We'll take you for one last look at the area. It does end up getting quite busy, but I think that's quite neat. We put some of this black like conduit over the fuel pipe. You don't need to. It just looks a bit better. It kind of disappears. So much so that I can't even find it on my camera. It's the gimbal. Oh, there. So much so it just disappears. We mounted the fuel pump on the opposite B pillar, just like the mount for the exhaust. That is on a 30-degree gradient running uphill. That's pretty much all you need to know. Electrical connection on the top and you're done. Fast forward just a couple of days and I'm grateful that I cut the video there, where I just did, and returned here to the driveway because I've taken care of those wiring bits. Do you remember earlier on in the video where I said I will take care of chasing the wires out of the way and making it look pretty? Well, I've done that. So here it is, and I couldn't be happier. Look how tidy this job is. So all three cables that come off of the unit, that is the 12-volt power supply, the data cable, and the 12-volt power that would lead to the fuel pump. They all come off, and I've cable tied them along there so they're nice and fixed and secure and can't move. Obviously the 12-volt power supply to the pump drops down through the turret, as I mentioned before. The joins are here, the factory style automotive kind of connectors there. The cables go under that floor matting, well away from the heat. They pop up through there and then they go down through a Conex gland. So that Conex is like a flexible conduit, not too dissimilar looking to what already covers your diesel heater wires, except this doesn't have a slip down through the middle. So I have an uninterrupted pipe, let's call it, from under that seat base to inside this cavity here. In between these two skins, I drilled a 20mm hole, and I have a gland at this end and a gland at that end, and I've basically now got a channel in which I can feed wires from under there to this section here. So here we have the data cable that drops down through and the 12-volt power. That's also my ignition live, my Clayton, so just ignore that. And they pop up through here. Check that out. So the power cable goes directly into the back of the Clayton, still making use of this fuse for now. And the data cable, which is covered in this protective sleeving while it's in the cavity. This at the moment is longer than it needs to be, right up until I know the exact point of where I mount this. And then I will splice any excess off and rejoin it so that I haven't got oodles of boodle in the cavity, but you don't have to. I've shortened these wires to exactly where I need them to be, or I will do, because I can and I want to. You can, if you want to, just coil them up, zip tie them together and stuff them under the seat. That's absolutely fine. But I'm taking my time with this build and I really want to be able to look into sections like that and see such a tidy job. And because it's already in that protective sleeving, you don't have to worry about bunching it up and it overheating or the wires being too long, because they were sold to you at that length. I just prefer to shorten these cables to do a proper on-top job. So, since sharing a simple picture to a Facebook group on the Autoterm diesel heater, I have had a comment saying, why didn't you fit it straight? Because you can. That person then went on to show a picture of a Webasto in an actual straight position. So I'm not sure if this diesel heater is a little bit longer than the Webasto. In the comments, Owen from Autoterm then said, did you know that we do a space saving version? And then he showed me this. Long and short, no, I didn't. You probably could move this diesel heater a tiny bit further to the right and then straighten it up if you really wanted to. But what we did notice, the further you go right, the more the diesel heater has to go towards the back door. So basically it's coming towards the back of the seat base, and then you're in the territory of drilling through the seam of the underside of the chassis rail. And of course you could move it forward to avoid that, but then you're drilling on that uneven surface, which I just didn't want to do. I picked the one location which meant drilling through a flat surface and that stayed way away from any kind of chassis rails or their seam as such. So happy with the final product here. A massive thank you to Adam at Campervans on the Thrift. This install is so clean, so tidy. If you've watched this video because you are keen on doing something like this yourself and you're at this point and you're still a little bit unsure, do check this video out. And if after watching that you are still unsure, reach out to Adam, Campervans on the Thrift once again. Not only does he do diesel heater installs where you'll get yourself 3 years warranty from Autoterm, but he does all things campervan. Let me tell you, I wouldn't take my van to anyone. He has the same eye for detail that I do. As you can see, this has turned out absolutely gorgeous. Hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it helps. If it has helped you, even just a tiny bit, please do consider subscribing, and I will see you next Tuesday.